Hey, what's up guys? If you are doing renovations and construction for your customers, I'm going to show you how you can utilize the projects in QuickBooks Online. So let's just dive right into it. If you come into your chart of accounts, we'll just start in here. You need to create some kind of expense that all of your job costing is going to go to. So you can make it general and just call it rehab and put it into cost of goods sold. Or if you want to have it a little more specific, you can call it construction materials. You want to put all this into cost of goods sold. You can have a construction materials and you can have a subcontractor expense cost. So once you set those up, you want to come up to your settings and we're going to set up our products and services. And this is where you're going to get the full detail of your job costing all within your products and services. So if you haven't set these up yet, what you can do is come into a Google Sheet and create your job costing that you like to use for estimates for your customers. And once you have this all set up, you can either come up into here, into new, and do a batch import and bring those all in, or you can just do these individually. So if you are just going to create one, you'll do a new service, and whatever you want to name it, but you want it to match what you have in your spreadsheet here, to match everything that you're going to send to your customer. So we'll go to new service. And we'll just copy it exactly how we have it. So if you want to label it 1A or 1B, we'll just say demolition. We're going to keep it as a service. Now your income is where you want to change it to. Normally if it's set up already in your QuickBooks, which it should, you want this to go into your billable expense income. And I'll show you why that is. Once we dive into the expenses, we're going to track every expense as a billable expense that we're going to send to our customer. And then we'll click into this purchasing. Now this is where your expenses are going to go. So whether you're just using a general rehab cost, or if you want these separated out, so if demolition is going to be contracted out to your subcontractors, you can put it into your subcontractor list. And then you'll save those. And you'll have your product and services all within here. So let's go back into our settings. And let's go into our company settings. So we want to make sure that we have our classes turned on. So go to your advanced, to your categories, make sure your classes are on. And then up here in the chart of accounts, what I was talking about with the billable expense, make sure that that one is tagged so it goes into that income category. And let's go ahead and go up to expenses. So click into this bills and expenses. We want our items table turned on so we can use our product and services. And this is where you're going to make sure that you're tagging this for the billable expenses. You can do markups, but we're going to skip that for now. And once you get all this in there, that should be all that you would need. If this isn't on, you want your product and service columns to be on as well. And then the last part that we want to do is set up our customers. So this is going to look a little bit different because QuickBooks is the setup is a little different now, but once you find your customer portal here, we're going to create our customer because we need to have a customer to be able to create a project. The project will be the sub customer of whoever that you're working with. So we'll just say Alex Smith is our customer, and you'll want to put in their email and their information if you're going to send out invoices, but we'll skip all that for now. So we got Alex, and we'll create one more. We'll say Jennifer Gardner. So when we have our customer, we'll come down here into projects. We'll create a new project. And we can put in the address. So we'll say this one is 373 4th Avenue. We want to put in our new client, Alex Smith. And I guess you could put in the date that your project should be finished. Save that. And let's do one more. And we'll say this is 8638 Denmark. And this is for Jennifer. Okay. So now that we got our project set up, not sure if we can switch this. But we'll just keep it in here for now. So let's go into our bank transactions. And let's start creating some expenses. So we'll say Home Depot. Normally, a normal transaction, you'll come into this category account and you can put it to supplies, whatever it may be. But we're going to go ahead and use product and service. So this is where we want to track the class as well, because this is going to help our reports when we're finished doing our project, because everything will be tied to a customer, and you'll see in the reports when you display it by customer, your reports get a little messy. So the classes is what's going to help us break down and make cleaner reports to look at. So Home Depot, let's go ahead and just make a new class in here, and we'll call it our address. And we're just going to say this was for rough plumbing. Make sure you put your project in here. And track it as billable. We want to keep track of these expenses as we're paying for our customer. And we'll do one more here. We'll go to Lowe's for $4.50. Again, we'll just ignore this category account. And we're going to add another class. This is for 8638 Denmark. We'll say this was electrical. Make sure it's at the billable, and we'll post this. Now let's go ahead and look at our project now. And I'm not sure why. Oh, there we go. I'm just doing this in 2015 so we can actually get clean reports to look at, so you can kind of see how it all works. Okay, so I guess I already had one with that address, but here you'll see it now. So we got Alex, and there's our cost of goods sold. We got our construction materials. We haven't gotten any income yet. So let's go into our reports. And look at the profit and loss here. So now we'll see our total construction materials. And now when we break it up by class, we get to see each property here. We know how much we spent. We'll be able to see our total income. So it's basically what you're going to see in the project portal, but this is what gives you that side-by-side view to be able to look at each individual project. Now if you went by customer, if you didn't use the classes, you can kind of see how it's going to be messy, because it's showing you the customer, which we have to put in no matter what, because the project has to be a sub-customer. So you're always going to have this customer, the sub, which is our property, and it's going to give you the total. And there's no way of making this any smaller. There's no setting to switch this up. So this isn't too bad, but if you're doing like 5-6 projects, you can see how this gets pretty crazy to look at, and it's not that helpful. So this is why we want to track the class as well. So if you have 4 or 5, you can see how much cleaner this looks, and it's much easier to read. So let's go back to our bank, and let's just do a couple more here. So we'll say that Steve here, let's just say it's Steve's grading. And that was for 373. And that was an excavation. We'll put our project in here. We'll make this billable to our customer. Go ahead and post this one, and we'll do one more for this says Lowe's, but we'll just say yeah, for Denmark. And I believe this one, we'll say it was for landscaping. Alright. So now we'll get to see what this looks like in the projects. So now you'll see the costs are going up. And then what we see here is our breakdown. So if this is how you want it to look, we got our construction materials and our subcontractors now. So we know what this breakdown is and what that looks like. We'll go back to our custom reports, and here it looks the same. So let's go ahead and just click into here. And actually, yeah. So if you want to see this breakdown, this is a small example, but this is going to give you the total of your construction materials, and it might be a big long list, of course. But we can break this down into product and services. And now we get this breakdown that we like to see from what we have in our spreadsheet for our estimate on our job costing. Now we get to bring up these reports as well. So now we get to see how much we spent in plumbing, electrical. So this is a good way for you to get the best of both worlds. You get the specific cost breakdown that you like to see in your estimates, and you get to go into your reporting and you get to see the overall picture without a big long list that's going to make this profit and loss kind of unreadable. This makes it a lot cleaner and shorter. So this is kind of how you get to see everything in a way that's not confusing, but you still get the specificity of what you're doing in your project. So let's go ahead and go back to our projects here, and let's say we're ready to send an invoice. We're going to go up to this add to project and create an invoice for this specific project that we're going to send to Alex. We'll keep it as the project for the customer here. Of course, you want to have their email in there. And say this was on the 1st. And now on this side here, this is where all the billable expenses are. So that's why that is important to have when you tag those expenses individually from the bank feed. That billable expense is going to come up here. So let's go ahead and add them all. And now you get to bill your client for those amounts. And let's just say for your services, you put in 25 hours, $100 an hour. Make sure you put your class in here. And you'll review and send it. If you're sending it to your client, they should get an email, but we'll just save and close for here. And now you get to see the income. And the best part is you get to see that breakdown too. So you get to know how much you got in your billable expense, and you know how much you made from your services, and then you get your net profit. And again, we'll come back into the reports. And we'll see the same breakdown here. We'll do it by class. And now you can see that you sent out the invoice for 373. You haven't sent anything out for Denmark yet. You still get your totals, but you still have the breakdown of each individual project. And then we'll go ahead and look at the balance sheet as well. And you can also see that you have the accounts receivable in here. I think I had other stuff in here from different demonstrations. But no, so yes, that's right, because we had our billable expenses in there too. So that makes sense. So there's our invoice that hasn't been paid yet. So that'll sit in accounts receivable. And we still get to see our net income. And we can even break this down by class. So here's our projects. The non-specified, that's just going to happen when you break it down into classes on the balance sheet. So that's not a big deal. Unfortunately, you don't get the accounts receivable to sit in that project. I wish it would, but we do know that this breakdown is accurate as far as the classes. So that's a very quick way of explaining how you can use the projects within QuickBooks to be able to get every single breakdown of your job costing. And it's very important that you still use the classes as well, because you want to have the best of both worlds to make sure that you get the proper reporting as you're doing these projects. And there's many different ways that you can go about it, as far as if you get to the end of the year as well and you need to move some of these expenses into your balance sheet so you're not just taking a huge loss if you haven't gotten paid, or if you're doing fix and flips and you haven't sold your property yet, which I can get into in another video. But I just wanted to show how you could do this if you're just working with customers. you're doing renovations and you want to see the breakdown of each individual project so that you can keep track of all your expenses. You can use the billable expense to keep track of those so you can invoice it out. And then at the end of your project, you'll get to see what these breakdowns look like, what your profit margin is, your overall profit. And this is just a clean way of going about it. So if you haven't used this, I highly recommend that you start using the project function so that you can keep track of all of your expenses more easily, and you can come in and really understand where you're at in the middle of your projects. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, of course, leave a comment, and I will see you guys in the next video.